Hi, Lady Steam here. Today we're going to do a video on how to build our Mystic Heart puzzle box, except in this case we've turned it into a gearbox just for you. You guys asked and we've answered. So open your bag and spread the pieces out and we'll take a look at what the different pieces are and how you need to decorate them. We'll start your project by looking at the pieces in the box so you know what belongs to what. Where the thing about this project that's interesting is we're actually going to build an inner box and an outer box. So we'll step through this together and figure out which pieces belong to which box so you know what to decorate. You'll notice you've got two that look like this. One of them says top and one of them says bottom. Those are outer pieces, but they're actually going to get covered with the pieces from this bag, which we'll get back to in a second. So let's look at what else we've got. These pieces with the long tabs on them are the outer box sides, and they'll go like this. And these sides won't be covered, so you definitely will want to decorate these two sides because they'll be seen. This is our inner box bottom. It's got little tabs on it, so you can see that from there. And these sides that have the flat surface on the top are the inner box sides, and they'll go like this. So once the box is opened, you'll actually see all of the parts of this. Now we also have ends of the box to be aware of. And in this case, the end of the inner box consists of these two pieces hooked together with the top going against them like so. So those two are the ends of the outer box, and the ends of the inner box have flat sides on them so we can scoot it out. So those two ends, one side has little magnet holes, will go on the inside, one side will go on the outside edge. But our outside edge also has on it a lip piece. Let's see if we can find the right piece here. We've got our big edge that's going to go on the front. And this piece is going to screw to the front of that. And this piece is going to screw to the front of that. And that's going to give us a lip like so. So you've got this set of pieces on the front of this box to give you a shelf. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that goes together in a bit. And that gives us the front of both the inner and outer box, actually. And the front on the back of the inner box, like so. So now you want to go decorate all those pieces. You've also got these two little pieces, and what's going to happen with them is on the top and the bottom both, they're actually going to get attached to let us finish the top and the bottom and give us a place to grip on our box. And we'll show you how that goes together in a minute as well. We've also got a little set of bars, and these bars, thankfully, are all labeled for you. I'm going to take the four that don't have labels on them away for a second. And they're labeled T1 through T8 and B1 through B8. So you want to find the numbers, find all the tops and get all the tops together, find all the bottoms and get all the bottoms together, B1, B2, B3, B4. And you're going to build yourself a series here. T6 and 7 go to that end, so they get put in place correctly. B5. There's T1 hanging out. 6, 7, 8. So now I've got my top and bottom. And we're going to add these little pieces to them like so on both ends, to give us our actual final top and bottom when we put the piece together. And finally, in your bag, before you get too excited about decorating, you've got your box of gears. The 4 of them that have big teeth are the 4 that you're going to use to put on the bottom of the box. If I can find my other big teeth one. And the rest of them you're going to use for decorating the tops and the sides of the box. And I'll show you how that goes together when we do it. But you probably will want to use most of them to decorate your box. So you can do anything you want to the gear pieces. You also in your bag have a set of magnets. Please don't let children chew on them. And 2 3/8, 2 1/2-inch screws, and 4 nuts. And we'll tell you how those go together in a little bit too. All right, so go decorate and then come back and we'll assemble your box. Now that you've decorated your pieces, let's get started with putting them together. And I'm going to start with the small box. So you'll see I've got my 2 sides for the small box. One of them says Steamy Tech. The other one doesn't. If we flip up this piece with the rastering on it, you'll notice that I've got a nice flat spot here, like so. And then on the other side, I've got my pieces that go together. And I'm actually going to start with putting this together. I've got 2 squares. Make sure the holes line up in these 2 squares for you. If you test it and they don't line up, then you probably want to switch with the big box face. But we're looking for holes to line up. And then we're also going to line up this piece. I'm going to open my screw set. And we're going to use the 2 longer screws first to screw these layers together. So I'm going to take my 1/2-inch screws. I'm going to run them through all 3 layers here like so. And to make life a little easier, I'm going to use them to align, and I'm also going to put a little bit of glue in. I don't need a lot since I've got the screws holding this together as well. But I am going to put a little bit of glue on to get these glued together. Make sure you don't go too far to the outside edge though, or you will have to wait for the glue to dry before you can finish putting it together. 1, 2. I'm going to put a dot of glue on my screw heads. Start those 2 screws. And then I will use my screwdriver to tighten that all up nicely. And my front plate will end up with that glued onto it. So while I'm working on the next part, I'm going to put quite a lot of glue in here and give this a second to dry and go together. And it's actually going to slide in and out, but the pieces on it will give us a nice way to get it held together. So I'm going to push that in and hold it for a minute. And wait ever so patiently for it to dry. Try to avoid getting my fingers glued at the same time. Put that aside and let it dry. Now the other bit of prep work we want to do is from our magnet bag here. And I'm going to open my magnet bag. We've got a warning on it. And it should have 6 magnets in it. It's always a challenge to use magnets, but we're going to start with putting 2 magnets on the inside of this. So I'm going to put glue on the inside of one hole, a nice bit of it. I'm going to slide one of my magnets off the stack and stick it in and push it down. And if you end up with a little bit of extra glue, it's okay. You can just wipe it off with your towel, handy dandy paper towel. And now that one's in place and drying, and we can do the same thing on this other side. Put a magnet in the hole. You want to make sure you know the alignment, although we'll be able to fix it on the other side. And we're going to do that. And since we're letting the glue dry a little bit on a couple of things, I'm also going to do one more bit of prep, which is to glue these 2 layers together and screw them together as well. So we'll bring our 3/8" screws up through that, flip it over, put a little glue on it, Glue those two pieces together, nice and centered. And again, we're going to put our nuts on here, sticking out. These are actually going to match those holes in the inner box when we assemble it. And again, I'm going to just tighten them up with my screwdriver, make it all nice and tight and neat. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use these magnets to go into these holes. So I'm going to put a glob of glue there and a dot of glue there, making sure I'm keeping the alignment matched. We're going to drop that into that hole. I'm just going to use my screwdriver to make sure it goes all the way in. This hole wants to be stubborn this time. And I'm going to put a drop of glue on it and put a second magnet on top of it. Oh no! I dropped it on the ground. Now we get to play with picking up the magnets.
Yeah, magnet polarity is very important in this, or else they won't stick right.
And I've unglued that magnet from its hole too. So many things to play with here momentarily to get the magnet straight. Now I'm guessing the other ones went underneath. Magnets love to fly away from me. Okay, so validate the polarity. Let's stick these two in first. There's one more drop of glue, and a second one. One more drop of glue over here again, and I'm just going to set this down on top and slide this guy over into that hole, and then the polarity will help me keep it in its place while we let things dry for a little bit. So while that's drying, we're going to do the front and the sides. Now these aren't a super tight pressure fit, so you do want to make sure you get a nice amount of glue on them. You also want to make sure that the glue is dry before you move too much further on. If you have baking soda at home, you can actually put baking soda on the glue on the inside edges and it will instantly dry the glue for you. Or you can use a chemical called Instant Set. If you're using Instant Set, as with all good chemicals, please be a little careful not to get it in your eyes or breathe too much of it. And now I'm going to take my front piece and we're going to glue my front piece on. Once that sets, come on. A little more glue and a little more patience, I think, is being required today. I can start singing for you if you need me to. And we'll do the same thing here with nice amounts of glue around the front. Since I know that the surface has got these corners, I'm also going to put some glue on my corners that it's gluing to. Making this box as strong as possible is definitely one of the things you want to make sure you do. And now I can lift my other side of my box off and we can glue it in here like so. So one more set of glue. On my inside flaps here. That whole thing together. And then we're going to set this box aside and let it dry for a little bit. Getting that letting that glue dry is very, very, very important. Now, building the box itself kind of has two options depending on how you want to decorate it. And I think what I'm going to do, how we want to get those lined up, is I actually think I'm going to do this my preferred way for getting the sides lined up perfectly. So I'm going to put on the bottom and the sides, and then I'm going to add the decoration, all the decoration layer pieces on top to make sure everything goes together smoothly. So I'm going to start with this piece and my bottom. I'll put the bottom layer in this hole here. And slide the bottom piece on like so. And this video is going to be long just because it takes a while for super glue to dry. The glue we use takes about 30 seconds to sit and hold, as long as you're holding it perfectly still. We like it though because it doesn't dry so quickly that you have a problem with it. Today is going to be a bad glue day, Greg. Professor, I'm sorry. No gluing for the lady today. It's mostly glued. Now I'll take one of the sides. Notice that I've got a flat surface there, so we're going to glue it to the flat surface here. And I've got long tabs coming out top and bottom because we have a front and a back to put in. So I need to put glue on this set of tabs. And on this set of tabs on the inside. That's another trick. If you're building a tabbed box and you look at it first, it helps because you can validate where you're ready to put your glue. As you do it. And make sure that you're all the way glued against the surface here and not only part way in, because we're going to need that surface to go together so we can build our layers on it. Squish that down good, and now I can do the other side. Again, make sure you've got the front flat. Depending on how you've decorated and what you've decorated, you might want the opposite side to be the inside or the outside. And when I'm putting one of these together without screws in it, I always make sure to put glue on all the surfaces, on all of the tabs, so that we got glue all the way across it. Set it down this way so gravity is actually working with me this time. Gravity is sometimes your friend. Really doesn't want to glue this time. Flip it over this way and push down too. Still doesn't want to glue this time. Very, very patient. We're hunting rabbits or something. I think that time it actually glued. Before I finish putting it together, I'm going to show you what happens. We're going to be able to slide this in and out, and those magnets should latch at the back end, and then I can pull it out from here. Now what we'll do is we'll attach one of these pieces of wood and some of our little inserted pieces of wood underneath, so to be able to open it and close it, you'll hold here and here, and it'll slide in and out nicely. So we're going to add some layers to the inner box as well when we're ready, before we're ready to finish it. And the last piece we need to glue on is our top layer here, so we can go put the glue on it and get our outer box assembled, and then we can start putting on the layers of decoration to make it so you can't tell how to open it. It's the magic pieces. So we'll flip that over. Like so. Pop it into the hole. And now we're ready to start adding our additional pieces to the top and the bottom. So I'm looking at the top. And I'm going to put T1 on first. So I'm just going to put a layer of glue like here. And I'm going to drop T1 on. And what happens, and the reason we've done these in separate pieces, is we're actually disguising the slots where we're going to grab hold. So I'm going to go across the top. That one wants a little more glue. I'm just going to pick these pieces up one at a time and drop them into my box. And the goal is for people on picking up this box to not even think about the fact that there are 2 layers here. It looks like we added a beautiful layer of decoration to the top, which we did. Now T6 and T7 are the ones that are a little different. Those are the ones that are only cut in half, so we're going to put T6 here like so. I'm actually going to put glue on the rest of it and drop all 3 of these in at once so we can scooch them around a little bit if we want to. T6. And I'm going to put T8 in. To its spot, and T7 into its spot, and now we've got a top. All pretty. And now I'm going to slide my box back in for a second. Now, it's easy enough to take the inner box out when you can grab hold of that lip and pull. It's much harder when you don't know where to hold on to, and if you squeeze on the wrong place, you actually lock it in place. So what we want to do is we want to glue this piece of wood to that inner box. So I'm going to slide this in, put glue in the middle here. Try not to get it too near the edges so I don't glue my box together accidentally. And glue that piece down. And then I'm going to take 2 of these shorter pieces and I'm going to glue them on top of that into this hole. And at this point, you can still tell where to hold on to the box if you want to slide that piece out. But we're going to make that a little harder for people. The way we're going to make that a little harder for people is we're going to glue some gears on it when we flip it back over. So let's do the bottom first, and then we'll show you how to finish up your trickiness. So now we're going to do the same thing with the bottom pieces. You'll notice you've got the little 2 cutouts on B2 and B3, so I'm going to flip it around the correct direction to get those cutouts in. I'm going to pull the inner box out so that I don't accidentally get glue on it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put glue everywhere on my bottom piece. And very quickly go slide in all these other pieces. All the way across. And what I want to make sure I do here is when I do B4, I didn't do a great job on the top, but when I do B4, I want to make sure it lines up right to the edge of that cutout. So I'll slide that in like so. 5. And having a little space between them, there's a little kerf on the laser. That's the space, the stuff that actually gets cut out from the laser is okay. Because you want them to see and to perceive that there are strips here of wood, even though we all know that they're just glued onto a flat surface. So I've now got my box bottom put together. I'm going to flip it over and push it down for a second to give it a little bit more pressure to help the glue dry. The other thing that's interesting about super glue is it really does dry best with a little bit of pressure. Clunk. So now see how much harder that is to pull out unless you're grabbing onto the right spots to take it apart. So now we want to do the same thing we just did. We want to glue in our little square of wood here. into that hole on the bottom of the inner box. And we want to glue in our 2 strips that are going to finish filling this in. And then the question becomes, how do you disguise those panels? And how do you make it easy enough to open? So I'm going to, and my hands aren't very strong, by the way, so I'm going to do 2 things to help me do that. You'll notice that we've got these lovely gears here. Make sure they're not meshed or this won't work at all. On the bottom, we're going to use these big ones. There's my other big one. As feet on the box. And by doing that, I can glue it to this side of the box. And completely disguise that line. That does mean that when we put the one below it on, we want to do something similar and make sure that it looks approximately lined up in the same place. On the bottom of the box. On this side, and my box now has a nice flat bottom to sit on. And you can't tell that those are seamed there. Now we can do the same thing on this side. The one thing I'm going to do differently on this one is I'm actually going to, I think I've got enough height here. If you don't have enough height, you could put a piece of paper in underneath these to get them up a little bit. I'm actually going to glue to these pieces and bring this gear off with it, I think, on this one. I've decided that rather than telling you exactly where all your gears need to go on this top, I'm going to let you put it together however you want. So we didn't give you a pattern for gears. We just gave you lots of gears. Lots and lots of gears. Give this a second to dry. And if I can't get it to open, I'm sure the professor can. My right hand is sometimes...
We'll see what we can do. Hopefully it's on. Yeah.
It's all about how you hold your hands. That's one of the 2 clues.
It is. It is. It's always great fun watching people try to open this thing.
And at a show, the other clue you can give them, or when you have a friend over, the other thing you can clue you can give them is it's much easier than they think it is to open.
Yeah, people think it's a multi-step Chinese puzzle box or something that is really exotic.
I like having a gear there because I can put my thumb on it and do it. But now I've got enough pieces, I can decide how I want my gear arrangement to look. And I can do almost anything I want as long as my gears cover up those labels, those numbers down there. And you've got lots of extra gears you can use as well for decorating. So this is your chance to be a little bit artistic.
You could even put them on the side of the box if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, that's why there are so many extras. So there's room for some on the side of the box. I know Semitech's not supposed to glue any gears on it. They're supposed to all work.
People are going to give us a lot of trouble. This is our very first time we've ever done glued gears that don't actually work. Maybe someday we'll actually do a puzzle box with gears that really do work. Maybe even has something to do with the operation of opening it, but not now.
This one is not that way. You can feel free to give us grief if you need to, but I think I'm going to do that instead. What do you think, Professor? Do we like that layout?
It's very nice. It'd be fun to actually have people think the gears really are supposed to spin and try to move them.
They probably won't in this case, but maybe soon. Well, they probably will try to move them. You want to make sure you get them glued on really well, or they will be pulling off of the gears.
I always like to tell people the number one rule is you can't throw it on the ground and smash it with your foot to get it open. Because it'll work, but it's not ideal.
Like all things, it will work, but only one time. Please don't put 3 gears together in a circle, though. I will be very sad if you put 3 gears together in a circle, because their gears only go right, left, right, left. And if you had 3 in a circle, they would always jam. I put 4 in a circle there, and 4 is fine.
Looks beauteous.
And then you've got additional gears for your sides.
Lots of chances for arting. Just like we like it. I know we've heard from some of our subscribers that watch our videos. They're always wondering what the weird noises are there in the background. Just so happens we're directly across the street from the back of the San Jose airport, so you get all of the airplanes taking off and landing, and they make a racket.
Couple more gears on the side. And yes, indeed, at this point, you have a beautiful geared puzzle box. You've got to remember the correct way to open it. See if I'm strong enough now. Maybe not. Oh, that's a bad thing. Remember how I said meshing them might be a problem? Well, it was. We were able to pull that gear off. Now the box is opening and closing really nicely. So I'm going to add this last gear that we just cut on the laser. It's kind of cheating to have a laser handy, I know. Back into this spot where my little mess is, making sure it doesn't mesh this time so the teeth will actually not interact and be a problem. And now I have a pretty box, gears on all 4 sides of it, that I can open and close with ease as long as I know where to grab it. But if I grab it here, there's no way I'm opening it very easily. You really do have to grab it in the right place and hold it in here and here if you want it to open. And by using that gear there, I've made it a little easier to open for weaker hands. But there's your geared puzzle box. Enjoy!